Good morning and welcome to the new episode of Dr. Lamba's Awakening Call. There was a time when the whole world listened when Canada talked. I remember as a kid, Prime Minister Diefenbaker, when he would speak, people listened. Even Pierre Trudeau, when he would talk, people listened. But the last time the world listened was when Prime Minister Harper talked and world listened. I still remember his excellent, well attended to and quite provocative, incisive talk at Doha, which changed the very concept of the international trade and WTO. But that's a dream now. Does anybody listen to what Canada has to say? The Canadian statements, which used to carry some weight, are not taken seriously any longer. And this tone is set by USA. Why is it that USA doesn't take its northern neighbor very seriously? Despite all the talk of three amigos, USA cares neither for Canada nor for Mexico, but I'll give my attention to the Canadian issues. Do you remember that early December morning in 2016? Election had taken place, Trump had won, Obama was a lame duck president. And that morning, Joe Biden, the new president, the present president of the USA, got up, inquired into President Barack Obama's health, and then came to Ottawa. Here he was treated as if he was the head of the state and not a lame duck vice president who otherwise has no say. A state dinner was organized, and then he called Justin Trudeau to be a defender of the international rules of road. The defender of international rules of road. And naturally you can see how elated Justin Trudeau must have been. And he said that now the period of uncertainty is going to begin when Trump's takeover as the 45th president of USA, and the whole world looks to Justin Trudeau to be the leaders and provide that leadership which Barack Obama was given. Great. People were really impressed. But he becomes the 46th president of USA. Has he walked the talk? At that time he had said, we are more like family even than allies. I mean that sincerely. Where has that sincerity gone? A preoccupation with his own domestic politics has negated whatever he said. And we have seen him adopt a protectionist agenda. Now the economies of Canada and USA are intertwined. And when you are protectionist for your own country, for one part, the other part would always suffer. It's like one twin beating the hell out of the other twin. And imagine Trump, Mexico and Canada hammered out a trade agreement. And the agenda of Biden now contravenes that trade agreement. His administration is proposing to increase U.S. content requirement under the Buy American program. And it's Build Back Better, shades of Make America Better Again, Make America Stronger, Buy America, the same programs of Trump. So that program includes incentive for electric vehicles that are already reshaping the automobile manufacturing industry. The proposal is to offer incentives worth a maximum of 12,500 US dollars per car on new EVs, electrical vehicles, made in USA using union labor. Now, Canadian federal incentive maximum is 5,000 Canadian dollars. And although a number of provinces have their own offers, but federally, Canada gives $5,000, the federal government, while USA is going to give 12,500 US dollars. The cost or the difference between the US and Canadian is ordered that. So instead of 7,500, it comes to about $8,000. Trudeau has gone to Washington to attend the North American Leaders Summit with Biden and Mexican president. The first such three amigos meeting since 2016. Did anything happen? No. There was a bilateral meeting with Biden to deepen economic cooperation and security partnership. Nothing happened. Biden has pledged to lower tensions with Canada and, of course, with Mexico. But it's just a talk. As I said, he doesn't walk the talk. Trudeau is echoing the comments of the Minister Melanie Joly and Mary Knight that electric car incentives are inconsistent with the trade agreement, USMCA. Even Mexico is also urging that the proposals should be brought within the trade agreement parameters. Volpe, president of the Automotive Parts Manufacturing Association, once called proposal of Trump to put the 25% tariff on Canadian autos as the finishing of the car industry. He called it car apocalypse. And the Biden's proposal to lower prices by 33% makes that disaster for the automobile industry still worse. It's the same principle, but a different medium. And it's contrary against both WTO and US-Mexico-Canada agreement, USCMA. The implications are very clear. 3,000 jobs at Chrysler plant in Brampton will be at risk when it stops making Dodge Charger and Dodge Challenger brand in the next 2 years. In 2023, they are going to stop the production and 3,000 jobs would be lost. Can you afford to lose jobs when already the unemployment rate is 8%? Because these production would be replaced by electric vehicles and they will be made not in Brampton but in Illinois. Because for each car they'll be getting 12,500 US dollars. You remember that American company Stellantis forced the merger of Fiat Chrysler and PSA Group. Now they were thinking of building a battery plant in Ontario or Quebec. But would they build the battery plant here because the incentive for building the battery plant may not be there if they build in Illinois? So what is required is to solve the problem. Trudeau is likely to suggest, he must have suggested, to harmonize these incentives by dumping US-only clause. But would he be able to dump? He knows that the star of Trump is rising. People are getting more and more disillusioned and disenchanted. And today, Biden's approval rating is the lowest in the history of any president in US. With that thing, you can be sure that he is not going to commit political harakiri, political suicide, by not promoting Trump agenda. And whatever he's talking about, build America better, is just a repetition of Trump parrot voice. And not only that, he has gone a step further. Even USMCA, he has practically dumped for all purposes. So Canada now has this curious situation. Its unemployment would be decreasing, and then politically, they don't care for America, what Canada says. Have you ever heard Canada's statement on any of the public issues? There was an issue of submarine deal with Australia. France objected, but America didn't even talk to Canada about it. And Prime Minister Trudeau must have been as surprised by the deal as any individual would be. Now, coming back, Canada has huge reserves of critical minerals like lithium and cobalt. They are needed for making battery production. Would Trudeau have the capability to tell Biden, look here, if my batteries are not made here, I'm not going to give you the raw material? He can do that. He'll say, okay. And why not? What he can do is to supply the same raw material to the manufacturers, provided they manufacture the batteries here in Canada. He may not give them cash incentives, the way, but then that needs imagination, that needs initiative, that needs thought. I'm giving you an idea. And to ask Biden to reverse himself on an issue that is winning the blue-collar vote is to ask the president to show some grit. Now, Perrin Betty, who was a defense minister in Gretchen's Mark and now is the president of the Canadian Chamber of Commerce, said, we are witnessing an evolution of relationship with the White House. It used to be special. Now it's transactional. It's overlooked Canada. The Democrats are party of protectionism. It was Trump who changed the Republican Party. He became protectionist, and Democrats are now following the leader. You see, I can understand there are good reasons to amend the bill as it's written. The administration hopes to pass through the House of Representatives in the coming days. The only hope is it doesn't pass, that West Virginian Democrat senator is opposing this because the state has a non-unionized Toyota plant. So that is the only hope. But is the President Biden willing to do Canada a good turn because of that great, nice dinner hosted 5 years back? And then look at the defense. You remember Andrew Leslie, he was a former Liberal MP and the retired Lieutenant General of the Canadian Army. He was involved in the trade talks of USMCA. And he said very clearly, he was Liberal MP, that there is no respect for Washington for Trudeau. And to quote him, in my opinion, the two men, Trudeau and Biden, don't enjoy a close relationship. And this was the same Biden who said Trudeau is going to be the international voice for rules. And Andrew Leslie goes on to say that not only Trudeau is not respected, there is no regard for the country's commitment to its own defense. They don't see us as a nation that's serious about their defense capabilities. They don't think that we are committed to continental defense with the USA. And the first concern of USA is security. Mark Norman, the former vice chief of the defense staff of USA, said, we look at Canadian-US relationship through the lens of the trade. What is in it for us? We don't necessarily gain advantage from that. So since US is not getting advantage, they sign an agreement and then throw it in the waste paper basket or in the cold storage. And honestly, I would not be surprised if Biden brings up the Canadian defense spending and this country, Canadian position on China and NORAD. The bottom line is that the recurring back and forth is wearing Canada out. Ajit Sajjan, the former defense minister, and Lloyd James, then US Secretary of Defense, had issued a joint statement. And they had agreed to replace the NORAD. I don't know why Harjit agreed to it. Here we were getting the complete defense without spending a single penny. And then they wanted to replace this with a patchwork of long and short range radar installations with most technology as soon as possible. Now, as soon as possible doesn't mean anything. There's no deadline. There's no sunset clause. But one thing you have said, that your defenses are gone. What Canada was thinking, hoping that eternally they don't need an air force, they don't need a missile base, they don't need, because their complete north is protected by NORAD. Harjit Sajjan, I don't know who advised him, and how did the Prime Minister agree to it. The old system was designed to give advanced warning of approaching Russian bombers. And that's gone. Now both sides agreed to build a network of sensors from sea floor to outer space and develop the capabilities. It is a typical Canadian understanding that we agree to open-ended pledges without a firm commitment, without a sunset clause, without something definitive. The Liberal election platform, you remember, included a promise to upgrade NORAD, but crucially, there's no allocation for that. Yes, we'll protect our north. Where's the money? Has it been allotted? No. The Deputy Director of Center for Defense and Security Studies in a communication informed me that the so-called over-the-horizon system, which Harjit Sajjan agreed, would cost $11 billion. And according to that statement, 60% of that would be given by USA and 40% by Canada. $11 billion, that means about two-thirds, 40%. Does Canada have that money without allocating in the budget? How would they spend it? But the government is not budgeting the money, and this is a prime importance. And imagine, in the budget, the government has allocated $143 billion on the various pet projects and $78 billion in the new Liberal election campaign. The current system is out of date and needs to be done, but not this way that you throw yourself to the dogs. It's really no wonder that Biden is ill-disposed to do Canada any favor. He will not. In his speech in Ottawa in 2016, he had compared USA to an overbearing big brother. I really mean it, he said. What he left unsaid, and what is more important in diplomatic areas, it's not what you say which is important, but what you don't say that is important. And what you don't say is much more important. So, what he didn't say was that in his analogy, when he was talking, that Canada is an overbearing big brother, the analogy was that Canada is immature, undependable, younger brother. America is overbearing big. In his contrast, what is Canada? Undependable, younger brother, who just wants to get the help from the elder brother without doing anything. It's a fitting comparison. This government that does not take its own national defense seriously, that does not take its employment issues seriously, that doesn't take its international commitments seriously, but only believes in giving aid rather than having something firm. So if you don't look after yourself, as I always say, why should others look for you? So this government doesn't take its own major concern seriously. So why should America take it seriously? And that is why USA and following that Europe do not bother for what Canada says. For them, Canada is a big country whose resources can be utilized but need not be cared about. That's a sorry state of affairs, but that's a reality. Think about it. Thank you.